The strongest hero is betrayed by humanity and reincarnates as an overpowered Dark Lord. In the year 447, there was a huge war around and now have angel forms. The demon lord Leonis was sitting in his room chamber watching everything from his ball. All his strongholds have been defeated, and this is their last round the world between the 6 heroes and the demon lord. The demon lord's army of skeletons rushes into the battlefield to face the heroes. But the heroes have been blessed with godly line of defense. The skeletons manage to clap some human soldiers, but one of the heroes has the power to bring them back to life. Suddenly, a huge Fenrir companion and loyal general stops him, reminding Leonis that he made a promise to the goddess of rebellion. She had entrusted him to do something when he was still human. So tree-like creature appears, making the demon lord angry because he recognizes it as the arch-sage hero who quit being human to get more power. Leonis gets up and summons his staff to join the fight, but Leonis decided to accept defeat. He drops his staff and walks toward a door while his castle is being destroyed. Before entering, he promised that he would rise again in 1,000 years. Celia and Regina are on a mission to scout the ruins because they have reports that some monsters called voids are building their nests there. They walk through a corridor and reach a huge door, secretly his throne. And so, he sealed his own soul in the Grand Mausoleum. 1,000 years later, we then see 2 girls exploring the castle ruins of Leonis. Celia recognizes it as the king's mausoleum, where demon lord kings decide to rest waiting for their final days. Regina tries to open it but thinks they need to pick up something to blow it apart. Celia then notices some writings on it, where she finds a huge crystal. She then realizes there's a person inside and decides to help him. We then see Leonis in a barren place. He sees Roselia, the god he once made a prompt on the door, and uses her phone which language it is. She realizes the door is alive and touches it. Suddenly, the door activates and opens up. She picks up her gun and steps inside. He says that he finally has found her, and she replies that it's been over 1,000 years since they met. Leonis explains he couldn't do anything and tries to stop her, but she simply says she hopes to meet him again. Meanwhile, Celia is trying to shoot the crystal to rescue Leonis, who's the person inside. He complained against the god powers given to the heroes, so he decided to seal his soul to keep his promise to her. She replies that she's happy that he still remembers it and walks away into the air. Leonis about the noise and wonders if it's been 1,000 years already. He guesses the reincarnation ritual was successful. Leonis then notices Celia trying to shoot the crystal. He realizes she's human and thinks but he's wrong. He then decides to finish her by trying to rob his grave. But he stops when she asks why a kid would be locked inside the crystal. He looks at his reflections and is shocked to see his new form. He thinks the reincarnation she's trying to rob his grave. So, he decides to show her the power of the reincarnated demon lord. He uses his magic to shatter the crystal and knock her down. He initially thinks she's a descendant of the high elf tribe. Spell failed. But he doesn't understand why, because he used a spell to rebuild his body to a previous form. He expected to be in his demon lord form, but he is now in his human form when he was still a hero. Yes, the demon lord. He initially gets annoyed but eventually ends up falling fainting. He later wakes up and she gives him some cookies. He thinks that his current body is bad because he fainted from something trivial like hunger. But luckily, he is a former hero. The girl asks him why he was sealed inside the crystal and checks him out to make sure he's not hurt. She then suddenly hugs him, telling him that Big Sister is there to protect him. Celia saved him. She then asks if he's fine, introducing herself as a 15-year-old student from the Holy Swordsman Rearing Institute, and asks for his name. Leonis introduces himself and thinks he can use her to realizes that his record as the demon lord was deleted from history. She asks for his age, and he replies that he's 10. She then asks if he remembers the void monsters that had taken him away, but he's get information about the current world. She repeats his name sometimes and calls it cute. He gets annoyed because his name once meant chaos and terror, but now a random girl calls it cute. He then is confused. She then explains that voids are enemies from another world, and that she and her school colleagues are knights who wield swords to fight them off. Leonis is initially confused, but it's a void base. He realizes that she found him by coincidence, but she said that the door was sealed until she touched it. He then asks her what year it is. She says they're in years because 1,000 years ago, the enemies of the world were people like him, Demon Lord and the Goddess of Rebellion. Celia then explains she and Regina were investigating these ruins because they suspect 64, which confuses him. They suddenly hear a big explosion, and Celia receives a message from Regina stating she encountered large voids. Celia immediately holds onto Leonis, just to trip and fall flat on his face. She tells him to back down and shoots the Void, but it only tickles him. Suddenly, a laser beam destroys the Void's arm and shoots its body down. It's Regina.